welcome to the Rundlett and Baldacci Report. This is our first show since I returned from my world cruise on the Queen Anne. I was on an 80-day cruise, and I'm doing a documentary called Around the World in 80 Days with Derry. And coincidentally, we are just feet from the theater where that movie played, Around the World in 80 Days, a mere 70 years ago this very minute. And I was the David Niven character on that cruise. I'm going to be preparing that documentary during the course of the summer, and it will air on YouTube and this station in September. Well, we're not doing politics today, folks. We're doing magic. And if you ever watch America's Got Talent, one of the great shows of TV, you'll know that the finalists, of the 10 finalists, there's always one or two magicians. And very often, they win and do a headline show in Vegas. And speaking of Vegas, the biggest shows in Vegas, other than Cirque du Soleil, would be Penn and Teller, David Copperfield, Chris Angel, and of course, Siegfried and Roy back in the day. Well, today, we have Maine's David Copperfield. Rob, introduce our mutual friend.
My friend, Deane Stern from Bangor, Maine. And it's always great to have somebody from Bangor on the show. We've had your friend growing up, former Secretary of Defense, Bill Cohen.
Who you call Billy.
I call him Billy, and you do too. We all grew up. You grew up with Bill. And anyway, we've got a lot of great Bangor stories, but Deane is just has an amazing background. Coming out of Bangor, he was a renowned magician at the Hollywood, what is it, the Magic Castle?
Oh, the Magic Castle. Yeah, I was a
Deane Stern.
I was a member of the Magic Castle.
Okay.
And going out to Los Angeles, I was kind of shy and on the background. And to make the truth is, I couldn't even get into the Magic Castle. I went there to get a job. I was 1973, so I was going to be 29 years old. Yeah. I was very depressed, back from Vietnam. Right. Didn't know what I was going to do with my life.
How long were you in Vietnam?
I was there a year.
Okay.
I was a combat medic.
You were a combat medic?
Yeah, I was a combat medic.
And served out in the jungle there?
Well, not jungle, in the Mekong Delta.
Yeah, right.
And I did my, down the Michelin plantation.
Oh, my God.
And the area called Quan Loy, which is up along the Cambodian border. But
anyway, at the Magic Castle, what happened?
Yeah, so after Vietnam, I come back, and what am I going to do with myself? Actually, I went away for another 2 years. As you'll see, I was in Ethiopia. I didn't know, I wasn't going to stay in the United States after Vietnam. Make a long story short, I did come back, and I decided I had to make a living. What was I going to do? So the only thing I could do, I thought, was write. I wanted to do advertising and copywriting. So I went out to L.A. I couldn't get a job as a copywriter. Yeah. And I did magic for fun. I knew the Magic Castle was there. And so I try to get in. They won't let me in. I can't get a job there. They have the most famous waiters, hosts, everything. There's no room for me. So I decide to get a job at a place called the Great American Food and Beverage Company, one of the most famous restaurants in Los Angeles, most profitable restaurant in the country. They're lined up 7 days a week.
What?
Yeah. And this is where I met Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, Alice Cooper, John Lennon, and the list goes on. And the people that worked with me there were people like Katie Seagal, who later became married with children.
Yes.
Became a big superstar. Patty Reagan, Ronald Reagan's daughter, played the guitar. And all these people came in. So later, I was able to audition and go to the castle. And
then you rose up the ladder.
Well, I went in, but I was quiet, because what happened is my roommate in Los Angeles, a place called Topanga Canyon, there were three of us. This guy turned out to be a major star. He was a Russian-Chinese guy Frank Liu, and he was in the Kung Fu movies and Perry Mason and the Streets of San Francisco, Wi-Fi, everything. And he is the one that really initially got me to the Magic Castle. And so...
And there you are.
The first day I auditioned, I'll tell this story. I walked in, and there's a gentleman there, and I don't know. I see he looks familiar, and I'm thinking, I wonder if he's been in Maine. You know, he looks like somebody I may have known from Maine.
Yeah.
So I said, "Hi, how are you?" And I introduced myself, and I said, "I just got my membership. Are you a member?" He said, "Well, I'm on the board of directors." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Oh, I'm from Maine. I just moved out here." He said, "Oh, Maine's a beautiful state. I love Maine." I said, "Oh, you've been to Maine?" He said, "Oh, I've done theater in Agunquit." I said, "Oh, may I ask your name?" He said, "Yes, I'm Cary Grant."
Oh, my God.
And I go, "You're shitting me." You know?
Oh, my God.
So, I mean,
You didn't recognize him, though, initially?
I don't know.
Who doesn't love?
I didn't know him.
Who doesn't love Cary Grant? I stayed at the Warwick Hotel in New York a couple times when I went to the Tony Awards, and Cary Grant stayed lived at the Warwick Hotel in New York, and I was just so proud to see his pictures and stuff. So you get to talk to Cary Grant. Deane, your father was one of the great judges of Maine. Wonderful
Deane
man.
Stern.
And your brother, one of the best lawyers in the state's history, Marshall Stern.
Yeah, Marshall.
And yet you decided to not go that route, and you became Magic.
Well, it's like I was lost in Vietnam.
Did Vietnam
I didn't
have an
realize
impact
I
on
had
you
such
like that?
heavy PTSD
Yeah, of course.
until years later when I came back and got into a program at Bangor.
Deane, a friend of mine from Bowdoin wrote an article that he was also in Vietnam, and he just sent it to me. And the article is about how the soldiers from Vietnam did not believe in that. Many of them did not believe in that war. They came home, they were yelled at, spit at about. It was a horrible thing. And I remember Frankie Valli doing a concert out in Vegas and saying, "We owe it to all the Vietnam veterans to stand up and applaud them. But you were there in that horrible war. I was just in Vietnam on the World Cruise, and I went to the tunnels.
Oh, yeah.
They are the scariest things I've ever seen, Deane. There was no way that they could have won that war with those tunnels. It was a horrible, horrible thing.
They were tremendous soldiers. So they fought like the Apaches.
Yes.
Hit and run. They knew they're very smart. And you know, yeah, it's my commander, which is interesting, maybe interesting, was Colonel Patton, General Patton's son.
No way.
Was my commander in the tank outfit.
He was General Patton's son was your commander?
Yeah, he was my...
Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you something. This show, we don't have enough time to talk about these celebrities.
There's a lot.
Go ahead, Rob. I could do
Scattered
this
all over the place with this because when you start talking about Vietnam, you know...
Yeah.
Talk about, before you went to the Magic Castle, you were at the restaurant in L.A. That's where you got to meet John Lennon and a number of people.
Yes.
And also working with Katie Segal.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience a little bit, Deane. And some of the stories, particularly John Lennon would be.
John Lennon.
Friends with Elkie Summers. She came in a lot with Troy Donahue. Troy Donahue was a heavy alcoholic. We'd actually had to pull his face out of the mashed potatoes one night. But Brian Wilson was very messed up, and his family would bring him in, and they would have to hold him up. And he was like in a catatonic state.
Oh, my God.
But he always would ask the wife, the mother, he wants to see the magician. And I would do the same trick for him all the time. And he
What was the trick here?
Yeah. And
can you do it here?
no, but I can show you basically what I used to do. I would go up to a table and I would just reach up like this. And I'd say, I'd take a little bit of the atmosphere, place it into my hand, tap in my hand, tap in here, wave my hand, and when it did, a coin appeared. And that's a silver Canadian dollar. And just as easily as the coin appears, look, just like that, it vanishes. I can reach here, it appears over there.
Oh,
Then later, a friend of mine, Steve Freeman in L.A., was a tremendous magician. Jeff Altman, also a tremendous friend of mine and comedian and magician, got me interested in doing an effect like this. And I came up with my own method, but it's, remember when your uncle used to do this and say, which hand is the coin in?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I thought if I could create the Bermuda Triangle, look, when the wind howls, the coin vanishes. I mean, it's there, but you can't see it. It's here, pinched between my fingers. Can you see it there?
Oh,
Yeah. So,
Deane, so what year would this have been? I'd like to connect moments in time. What year would this have been with Brian? Like in the late 60s?
I'd say 74.
74, as he was
75.
starting to get worse. In the movie about him, we could see that he had
He was not good. I mean, to see him today, and I'm thinking, wow, I would never imagine that he would improve this,
because he was in not good shape.
I saw him a few years. He was in Portland at the Merrill and did a great show.
Great show.
But he's having a hard time. The age is caught.
I saw it when he in Boston. It blew my mind. He was in the middle of like 14 young people, and every song sounded fantastic. Every song. Of course, he's been referred to as a genius.
John Lennon.
Yeah, that's another thing. Someone said, everybody at the Great American had to entertain. So the waiters either played music or something, and I was the only magician. So someone had me go over to a table, and I happened to be doing magic, but a crowd of people surrounded me. And I'm going, gee, they love me. They're going crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Afterwards, I walk away, and someone comes up and says, what did he say to you? I said, who? He said, John Lennon. I said, John Lennon, he's here? He said, you just did magic for him. I said, that was John Lennon? Yeah. So I went back and I go, hey, why didn't you tell me you were John Lennon? He said, you didn't ask. So I said, now I'm asking you now. Can I sit down with you? He said, sure.
Oh, my Deane, a lovely man.
A Japanese girl and a manager. And wasn't Yoko Ono?
No,
it was someone else.
when he was out on.
Oh, yes.
Who I met a month or two ago.
You did, really?
Yeah.
And I did that. I did that routine, but at the end, I made it twice as big. He went crazy over that.
Folks, Deane,
this is stupid stuff.
No, it's not. It's great.
Deane, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, and I've been thinking this all night long, I want to ask you this. There's a rule that magicians aren't supposed to tell how tricks are done, but there's a guy that did a TV show, and he says, I'm going to show you how these tricks are done.
Yes.
And one of the tricks that I've seen in Vegas many times is the levitation thing.
Right.
How do they do the levitation thing?
Well, there's many different methods to accomplish these effects. And I'm not someone that will tell how secrets are done. It's once you take the wonder away from people, that wonder, even when I lecture and I show a magician a trick, and that fools them, they're like, it's amazing. The minute you show them how it's done, the simplicity. Basically, magic has a simple answer, but to accomplish that simplicity takes years. It's like music. People can you teach me a trick?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story.
Can't wait to hear it. Go ahead.
You do sleight. At one time, there's a story. There was a Professor Di Vernon at the Magic Castle. He was a legend. And I had a story where I went to him and I said, I do this trick where I have a card selected and the card rises out of the deck. And I said, I worked a year on doing this trick, and it's really difficult to do. I said, I came into the castle and there was a guy over there and he had a trick deck of cards that he bought at the magic shop. And he took the cards, he had the card selected, and the card by itself went up the top, and they went crazy. I said, I could have bought that and done that. He said, well, I'll tell you a story. He said, once upon a time, there was two birds. One was a canary, one was a crow, and they were in the forest. They both could sing, but the crow was not accomplished. Caw, caw, caw. But the canary could sing beautifully up and down the scales, staccato, bravado, the whole thing. And they were arguing, well, who was the better singer? They said, well, let's go into the forest. And whoever comes down the forest trail has to be the judge. So they go out, and coming down the trail is a pig. They stopped the pig, and they said, Mr. Pig, would you please judge which one of us is a better singer? He said, of course. So the crow sang, caw, 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 caw. And then it was the canary's turn. The canary sang beautiful, up and down the scale, the flight of the bumblebee, everything was beautiful. So he said, who do you think is the better singer? He said, well, most definitely the crow. Went on his way, and the crow and the canary went back to their trees. The crow could hear the canary all night crying. So finally in the morning, he went up and he said, are you upset because you lost the contest? He says, no, I'm upset because the judge was a pig. So not understanding the art, not being able to see between the lines. You know what I mean? We might be able to go to an opera and, I'd say, God, she was great. And you, who knows, say,
Deane, I've seen all of them in Vegas. Copperfield, Chris Angel, who he called me up on the stage. I was very proud of that. Penn and Teller, seen them.
Magicians would not be. They don't think much of him, Chris Angel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Maybe a demeanor or whatever it is, attitude.
Okay.
And the things he does maybe are other people's effects. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, one of the things he did,
I never met him.
One of the things he did was levitate.
Yeah.
At 20 stories.
Sure, he does great stuff.
And I love Penn and Teller and Copperfield. Do you have a favorite among those, Penn and Teller, any of them? Any favorites? Did you get to meet any of them?
I don't know those. I'm not big into illusions, but I know David real well.
You do?
Yeah, and David I knew before he became big. Actually, David came to me in L.A. He had just come back from Hawaii, and
we have a picture of you.
He was going to be a great magician, and he wanted to know how to get into trade shows, which is what I did.
Right. Okay.
I made my living doing magic for corporations.
I got you. Okay.
Industrial, salesman, because that's where the money was.
Right. Okay.
I made $1,000 a day in 73, 74.
A lot of money.
Plus all my expenses. That was a lot of money.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
So David and we sat together at lunch, and I didn't want to tell him everything. But he said, well, I've got a special coming up, and we'll see how that goes. End of story. He did the special. He didn't make any money, but that's what made him famous, sure. His first special.
And of course, the Statue of Liberty being disappeared, that's an illusion.
It's an illusion, and it's a camera thing,
Right.
You're controlling.
And the same with Siegfried and Roy. By the way,
I knew Siegfried and Roy. Yeah.
I met Tippi Hedren, and I asked her. I said, Tippi, you own a place with lions and tigers that you take care of. Was that tiger trying to help Roy when he had the stroke? She goes, no. That tiger sensed that he was weak and would have killed him, even though slept with him and all that sort of stuff. Go ahead, Rob. I'm monopolized. Go ahead.
No.
I go enjoy it.
So fine. So you're at the restaurant. You're making some connections, and at that point, well, you were working with Ronald Reagan's daughter. Was Reagan governor of California or president at the time?
I think he was. I think he was president. Yeah, he was. He was the president because I did his birthday party.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, tell us about the president's birthday party. This is wicked good.
Yeah, to make a long story short, I got called by someone from the Stein clinic, Mrs. Stein, and
right,
and they had me come to. They wanted. It was unusual. They wanted to audition me to see, which never happened. Usually, people would hire me and I'd go do the show. So I had to go to her home, and I went through all that. Anyway, to make a long story short, I got there. I only knew it was going to be some famous person. And when I got there, and she answered the door, in comes Ricardo Montalban. So she brought him right over to me, and I told him, I said, you know, I was the hands of Bert Convey in one of your episodes of Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island, you were on that show.
Yes, and he said, and you were wonderful in that. And I look behind me, I go, there's a real celebrity,
guy,
you know?
that's right.
What a real gentleman, a lot of class. So then, as people started coming in, God, what's his name? I have to look at my notes. All the famous people that came in. But in comes Ronald Reagan and Nancy.
Wow.
And they brought him right over to me. And
You liked him. You liked him.
he was great.
A nice man.
And he loved, you know, he was blown away immediately. He would have stayed with me if people didn't, you know, they were crowding in to get Ronnie, you know, but he said, boy, he did say, that looks like real magic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, we were sitting, I'm trying to think, what's his name? He was the original Batman at my table.
Adam West.
Adam West.
No, wait.
Oh, no. The original Batman. Okay.
Oh, not Batman. I'm not Batman. I'm sorry, the Joker.
The Joker. Okay.
The hell was his name?
I know you think.
If I say his name, you'll.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Burgess Meredith.
but my show is over, and I'm ready to go. And this man says, "Oh, can he stay for dinner?"
Okay.
So Miss Stein said, "Yes. Would you like to join us?" So now 20, 25 people go into a side room, and I'm sitting with the if I had my phone, I'll tell you, with the from Belgium. What the hell is it? I can't think of his name.
The ambassador of Belgium. By the way, so
Anyway, all these people sitting there at the table, and
Were you doing magic tricks at the table too?
and they start asking Ronnie to speak.
Yep.
And Ronnie gets up, did a beautiful, told some jokes,
Yep.
great jokes, very funny. And then they had the celebrities stand up and do something. Some of them read parts, some of them acted, and then they said, Deane, would you do something? So I closed the thing with a trick.
in front of all these, Deane, I want the
was
audience to
honored by-
hear some of these names that you know. You went to Johnny Carson's home.
No. What happened? Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Johnny.
Yeah.
So I write, people are always trying to get on the Johnny Carson.
Yes.
And I'm giving them advice how to do this stuff. So I write Johnny a letter. I take my own advice. I write him a letter, and I'm very good at writing. And Johnny, you know, I just leave it about a week later after I wrote it. My phone rings. I'm in the cellar. I go there. You should see where I work to make a living in this basement in Topanga Canyon. I answer the phone. Hello, Deane? Yeah. This is Johnny Carson. I go, I mean, he was my guy.
Everybody.
Everybody. I go, you kidding me? He said, well, why would I be kidding you? You wrote me a letter, didn't you? I go, yeah, but gee, he said, well, you started magic. He was making me comfortable. Where? I said, in Bangor, Maine. He said, well, yeah, and I started in Nebraska the same time.
He said he was a magician.
That's right.
He said, would you like to get together? And I said, definitely. He said, well, I said, when would you like to get together? He said, well, how about right now?
Oh, my God.
And I said, it was December, and I was preparing a bunch of Christmas shows. And I said, gee, John, I'm right in the middle of these things I've got to do. Can we do it? Would you come to my house? He said, well, he said, I'd rather have you come here. Do you know where I live? I go, oh, yeah. I know where you live in Malibu. He said, but you can't come now. I said, no. I said, can we do it at a later time? He said, yeah, okay. You know.
Yeah. Would you rather do it?
It was a stupid thing. Now, I'm at a party and Michael Landon's there. You know who he is? from
Bonanza.
Yes, Bonanza.
Prairie.
Michael is very good friends with Johnny.
Yeah.
And he said he probably had to go to a psychiatrist after you told him, could you call him late? He said, you should have gone right then.
Michael Landon told you.
Yeah, you should have gone right then. Now, what happens is I have a friend named Deane who lived in Glendale near the magic shop.
Okay.
He told the magic shop people that whenever Johnny comes in, call me.
Okay.
That happens. Johnny's in the magic shop. Deane goes down there. They meet. He takes Deane to his home. He thinks he's probably me.
Yeah.
And he's taking lessons. They're playing tennis, and he puts him on the show.
Oh my God.
That's a long story, but
Well, that's a good.
That was a long story, but I appreciated every minute of it. This list of
Robin
people.
Williams. You have a
Robin Williams, yes, Robin Williams.
Yes. Tell us about Robin.
He lived in Topanga Canyon.
Yes.
And he was, for 1 year, the mayor of Topanga.
He was?
Yeah. So he's a funny guy, and he's very good friends with my buddy, Jeff Altman.
Yeah.
And it was what do they call it, Topanga days. And he was up there. He had a few drinks. And I had said to him, I said, Robin, my friend Jeff Altman, he's a crazy bastard. He goes, he's a genius. I go, no, I didn't know that. So I told Jeff that. But
you're very, as Rob is, and you're very close with George Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned all the Kennedys.
George wanted to take,
What's that?
George, after he was finishing the sentence,
Yeah.
he said to me, maybe you teach me some magic.
Oh, did
He didn't know what he was going to do, I think, after that.
Yeah.
But one of the names you mentioned here, and I love it, is Donald O'Connor. I spoke in Hartford, Connecticut to a bunch of lawyers. And when I was walking down the street, and this guy walks by it was wintertime, in a snorkel coat. And I said, excuse me, you're Donald O'Connor. He goes, you recognize me in this coat? I go, I sure do. I said, that's entertainment. Oh my God, make them laugh in Singing in the Rain. I said, yeah. I said, by the way, I wouldn't have stopped for Robert Redford. He says, do you want to have dinner with me? I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
So,
He's a great,
wonderful
human being.
And you mentioned,
When I talked to him, I said, Donald O'Connor. And the minute I said his name, my eyes watered up in tears. I was performing. I'm going, where's Francis?
the talking mule.
Fucking mule. But I mean, he was so great. But
all the people that you met, Deane, over the course of your career.
There's 50 names
I
here.
know. I mean, you worked with everybody. You've known everybody.
How about Neil Armstrong?
I was mostly who?
Neil Armstrong.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, I did the defense shows in Washington D.C. So Neil was at a booth. He was at the booth, and no one knew who he was. My guys. I worked for Lear Siegler and Litton Aerospace, and they said, you ought to go over there and do that. That's Neil Armstrong. I go, you kidding? He said, yeah, he's kind of a quiet guy. So I went over, and he signed a playing card for me, and I did magic for him.
I have to say, I have Neil Armstrong's autograph. I tell people, when you go to heaven, the one guy that has the most parties is the guy that walked on the moon. You were about to ask him his favorite. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Chuck Yeager I traveled with. He and I did a show.
Love Chuck Yeager. I have his autograph, too.
We did a show in Beijing together. I did the first defense show in Beijing, China. Wow. And I will say, I have to say this. I meet the head of all armed forces, the general of all armed forces in China. And he's a tall man, big guy. And I saw him a card trick, and I said, now, do you have anything, a magic wand or anything you could wave over to this card? And he reaches in his pocket, and he takes out, like a janitor's keys, all kinds of keys. And on the keys was Donald Duck, a little rubber Donald Duck. And I said, where did you get that? He goes, Disneyland. I go, we're going to fight these guys? I mean, come on. They're like,
Yeah, that's hilarious. But who did you really enjoy or were awestruck by when you?
Well, I mean,
I know you're not much into celebrity.
Yeah. What I was excited about is being able to tell my friends who were excited.
Yeah, exactly. Like Derry.
I'm going nuts here. I'm going nuts.
Yeah, but I would, tell my mother I had Milton Berle became friends.
Yeah, so you wrote here, Milton Berle, a close friend. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I get called by Marshall. He said, will you represent the state of Maine? They're doing a TV show and NBC, and everybody's representing a different state. And I go, oh, God, I don't know what to say. I go. Make a long story short, Steve Allen, Hubert Humphreys talking to me, all these people. And I'm sitting up there. I get there early.
Yeah.
And Michelle Phillips, is that from the
Yes, from Mamas and Papas.
I don't even know who. I'm going, so what's your name? She said, Michelle. I go, and what do you do? She said, well, I'm in a band. And I said, what's the band? She said, the Mamas and Papas. I go, Mamas and Papas. Like, where have I heard that? I'm a fucking idiot. So anyway, more people start. I'm dressed in a suit. I'm going to say I'm from Maine, and Maine is.
Yeah.
And everybody, the place is filled, and all of a sudden, this guy comes in with gum rubber boots on, and he sits down. And he says, "I'm from Maine." He said, "I'm going to speak for Maine." And I look at him, I look at me, I go, my God, he's from Maine. I look like So I said, okay, you speak. And he had something to do with Mount Kineo.
Yeah.
I think real estate or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was it. But I met all these people. So coming out, I'm walking down the hallway, there's Milton Berle.
Right.
I go, Milton Berle? Because I was excited as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, yeah. I go, gee, I'm from Maine. He said, my wife's from Maine. She was from Portland.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know it. And I said, yeah, I'm a member of the Magic Castle. I'm just here over. And he says, you got a deck of cards? I go, yeah, I do. He said, come on, you want to get down to the commissary with me for lunch? I go, yeah. He said, I got a bunch of guys there. I'm going to do that card trick, from the castle and I'm just going, yes. So he goes, he takes my cards. He's standing up. All the guys are at the table. And he says, okay, I got something to show you. He has a card selected, and he's supposed to find the card. He's turning it over. I was supposed to signal him what the card was. I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't say anything. Yeah. He gets the wrong card. He goes, come here. I thought you said you remember them. He gets me hell. He says, we're going to do it again. This time, you go like this. Anyway, so we did it again. And after that, I kept bumping into him. Restaurants, everything.
Right.
And one day we're in a place in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And Marshall was with me.
Yeah.
And I said, here's Milton Berle, come on. He comes in, and we call my mother, and Milton said,
Oh, my God.
I bet she loved that.
but he was a regular guy.
As you may not know this, but Milton Berle would be kicked off television today by Donald Trump because he dressed in drag.
Oh, yeah.
Probably, you're right.
Well, there were a lot of wild stories.
That was his big act.
Well, Milton had a reputation with the ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay.
And he came up to Lakewood, and he used to come into our restaurant that we had.
Oh, he did?
Baldacci. Oh, yeah. When he was performing at Lakewood, became good friends with my parents.
Milton did?
Milton Berle,
Uncle Milty.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he was. I'm with two magicians, famous magicians, this Di Vernon and this Bill Bowers friend, and we're at a famous Italian restaurant in L.A. In comes Milton Berle. I see him in the distance. I go, oh, there's my buddy Milton Berle. And they go, you don't know Milton Berle. I go, I do. And I start telling them. And this Vernon had known him in the past. So I said, God damn it. And so I get up and I go over. I go, Milton, I'm over here. He was with Lucille Ball. I said, Milton, these guys are down there and they're telling me I don't know you. Will you do something? He says, you got your cards? I go, yeah. He comes down. He goes, okay, Vernon. And he has all these guys. He makes me look like a star.
Oh, my God.
So that
Lucille Ball, yeah, you knew her too.
I had done a party for Helen Hayes.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
It was after Cats. I think it was Cats. And they were honoring her at the Shubert Theater in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I was brought in, and everyone in Hollywood, I mean, I was like Lucille Ball and every celebrity. If some of the terrorists were back then, there would be no Hollywood. They were all there.
Yeah.
So I did magic for Lucille,
And a nice person.
she was good with me. You know, I took her cigarette and made it disappear. She said, "Where the hell is it?"
You know, Deane, one of the stories that's when people talk about celebrities, and I met quite a few on the cruise ship. I met the lead singer of the Hollies, became friends with him. One of the big stories that people tell is, was so-and-so nice? And so they'll mention, like, this star might not be such a great guy, Sean Connery, whatever. And I've had several people who say they met Sean Connery and he wasn't all that gracious. I've had people... but did you ever meet anybody that really was not gracious and just went out of their way not to be gracious?
With me, well, Ted Turner, I will tell you, I used to represent Drexel Burnham Lambert.
Yeah.
Some of them got in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But I would do the closing parties. They'd raise $200 million, and they started Ted Turner and CNN.
Yep.
So I went in, and I did a trick for Ted, and they brought me a tall man, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, geez, I wonder if I could,
You got the cards?
let's see if I can remember the trick. I'll use this. I got, boy, I don't know if I'll remember the, I'll give you the pattern. Maybe it'll come back.
Okay.
But I said, you know, cards, oh yeah, I do remember.
Okay.
I do.
Can't wait.
All right. So I said, let me take out. I said, cards are much like a calendar. I said, if you added all the spots on these cameras, like 5 and 6, queen is 12, a king is 13. I'm going to take out a card here. See, I'm missing one of them. I'll use the ace of clubs. Okay. They represent a calendar. There's 365 days in a year. If you added all those spots, it would be 365.
Okay.
52 cards, 52 weeks, 4 suits, 4 seasons.
Right.
Red and black, night and day.
Yeah.
On the top of the deck, presently, I have the ace of clubs. I said, as I go through, you just say stop, and he did. And I took out card out of the middle of the deck. You can see that is the 9 of spades, okay? I'm going to place the 9 back into the past, back where it came from.
Yeah.
So now presently on the top of the deck, I have the ace of clubs.
Right.
Right? But if I were to turn the clock back, if I were to turn that clock back where we were just a second ago, I'd have the 9 of spades here and the ace of clubs back on top. Well, when I did that for Ted, I thought I would do something ahead. He's a smart guy. He stops me, goes, well, there's not 365. You add up all those spots, it's 362.
Did he really?
I go, well, wait a minute. Leap year. He says, that's 363. I said, well, then you got the 2 jokers. He goes, yeah, he's very serious. I go, that's why you're a billionaire and I'm a magician. And the other guy says, leave him alone, Ted, leave him alone.
And,
But he was good. He was good.
just before we started the show, I told you that I'm good friends with Wink Martindale, who did the record deck of cards about a soldier and he likens deck of cards to the Bible. I'm very proud of that. Now, I'm going to bring up a name that you've got down here. And this name, of all the names, this is the most controversial one you got.
Yeah.
And it's Jeffrey Epstein. And you knew Jeffrey Epstein. And you told me before the show that you actually stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's house. Now, that is very close to the most notorious man of the last decade. What kind of a man was he?
Jeffrey, with me, was great guy.
What year would this have been?
This is about in the 90s.
So long before the trouble that we saw.
Before anybody knew anything that was going on. So
Tell us how you met him.
I met him in Bar Harbor, with a bunch of people having dinner, and I was doing magic, and I brought up commodities because he mentioned commodities, and I said, well, we're very interested. I don't know much about it, the stock market. He said, well, if you ever want to learn, come to New York. I'll give you my number. You can call me, and I'll take you down and introduce you to some people. You'll see how it works. I said, really? I don't know. What's your name? Jeffrey Epstein. Nice to meet you. We took his number. Now, a friend of mine from California was visiting me. So the two of us said, well, how about next week? He said, sure, I'll be there next Wednesday. So we drove to New York. We go to the address, and it's a building, and the maitre d', whatever you call them, bellman, answers the door, and
a door guy.
I said, we're guests of Jeffrey Epstein. He said he had a place for us to stay. He said, well, which place? Then I said, oh, his place here. He said, well, he owns the building. And you should see. I mean, this is not like
On the Upper East
downtown
Side.
Bangor.
Yeah.
This is a building.
Yeah.
We go, were you kidding me? He says, no. He says, let me get him on the phone. So he calls him up. He said, Jeffrey, I got two guys here. He said, who are they? He said, oh, yeah, that's right. He said, put them up in the pilots. The pilots are gone. Put them up in that apartment. So we went up, huge apartment, huge living room, 2 big bedrooms, everything there, refrigerator, so we're there. Then he calls up. He said, how are you getting settled and everything? He said, how would you like to go to a party tonight? My friend was a chiropractor. I said, gee, yeah. I said, where is it? He said, all right, right up the street at my place.
Next to the junior high.
Right up the street at my place. So I said, okay, so would you mind doing some magic? I said, no. And so we walked up the street, and we see a huge door. I mean, 2, big doors. Knock on the door. Ghislaine Maxwell comes to the door.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of town.
No. She's, hi. I said, Jeffrey Epstein here. She's, oh, yeah, no, Jeff told me. She said, come on in. And she yells to Jeff, and Jeff comes, he's got jeans on, shirt, and the place looking in is humongous, beautiful, opening, to go in. And staircase that went up, curved up. 4 people could hold hands and go up with beautiful art on, big painting. Yeah. We went upstairs, and I said, I go, Jeff, how the hell did you do this? How did you do this? He said, I was going to tell this story when all the news came out. No one brought this up, and I didn't say anything.
What was it?
He said, I was a school teacher. He said, I went to a party and met, what's his name from Bear Stearns? I forget his name. I will remember, because he's a magician. So he said, I met him, and he took a liking to me, and he thought I would be good, and I couldn't even read a ticker tape, and he taught me. And I started doing it then, and that's how I got into it. He said, you'd be good because you're doing magic the way you do. You're able to read people, read the mood, he said, that's what it is. He said, I've got machinery and equipment.
Right.
So anyway, make a long story short, he had Nicole Miller there with a lot of people, Victoria's Secret models. And we sat down, we had dinner, I did magic, and they had a few drinks, and later on they were going to a nightclub. But we were scheduled to get up in the morning and go to Bloomberg and learn on the computer the commodities. So we didn't go to, it was too fast for me. I mean, they're all dressed in, they're going,
So you passed on.
We passed on that.
Did you?
Yeah. So we got up, and he arranged for us to go onto Wall Street. Someone took us down. I said, yeah, I was here once more. He said, who took you down? I said, Marshall Stern. He goes, Marshy? So they knew Marshall.
They knew Marshall?
Marshall was on the New York Mercantile.
That's correct. I remember when he was on there.
Your brother was on that?
Yes.
Yes.
He knew everybody.
And Jack O'Day was a mutual.
Yeah, Jack O'Day was responsible for that.
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, Marshall was a dear friend of mine, a wonderful, wonderful lawyer, passed away in a very tragic accident that happened a number of years ago. A very, very sad day in Maine when we lost Marshall Stern and a member of a great family. Rob, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. Well, I don't know how much time we have left, but I do want to make sure you get a little bit of time to maybe show a few tricks
Oh, yeah.
to Derry and I.
Yeah,
Although you've already done some with the coins and stuff.
I'll do.
And I'd also want you to talk about, what you're doing. Are you available for performances or?
I'm
Gigs?
retired.
Yeah, I say the same thing too.
I know.
Nobody retires. No lawyer retires. No magician retires.
I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a lecture, but
Yeah,
know,
not interested in.
it depends if how big the check is.
So he's open to it.
Yeah.
All right.
How much we paying him to be here today?
A lot of money. A lot of money.
Look,
Dean,
I gotta think what I could do. Look, I'll let's see if I can. All right. Like I said, a little rusty, but I'm going to go through the cards.
Okay.
You say stop anytime you want.
Stop.
Right here.
Yeah.
Would you like the top card or
The top card.
this one?
Yeah.
That's going to be the mystery.
Okay.
Okay. That's going to be the mystery.
Yeah.
What I'm going to try to do is go through the cards like this.
Yeah.
And try to find cards that match it. Okay. Now, if this was a marked deck, it would be very easy. But
Yeah,
you
right.
have to trust me. Okay, there's the 8 of what? The 8 of diamonds.
Right.
All right. So I'm guessing that if I cut properly, yes, I have the 8 of clubs.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
The 8 of clubs. So let's see. I'll give it a little shuffle here. Cut right about here. Hopefully, that will give me the next 8, the 8 of spades. So if I have the 8 of spades, what did I say? The 8 of clubs, the 8 of diamonds.
Yeah.
This must be the 8 of what? And I have all 4. And there's only few magicians in the world that, what's the matter? Well, I told you. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying he made a mistake, but the only mistake I made was not finishing the 7th grade. See, all I have to do is spell the word 8, A-T-E, and I correct myself by having,
Oh my God.
Jack.
Get the heck out of here. Jeez.
That's a great.
I got one for you because you do the 4 jacks. I'm going to ask you this question. How is this tricked up? I show the audience 4 jacks. I show up to the audience. I put the 4 jacks on top of the deck, and I say, these 4 jacks are going to rob a bank. I take 1 jack, I put it in the bottom of the deck. I put 1 jack in the middle. I put 1 jack near the top, and I take the 4th jack. I show the audience. I go, this jack is going to stay by the door in case the cops come. Sure enough, the cops come, and the jack, he whistles, and all 4 jacks come back to the window. How did I do it?
I don't know, but I'd say you're 1 jack off. Because number one,
Jesus Christ.
number one,
There's a family show.
yeah, it's a family show. But this trick, magic,
Yeah.
the difference between an amateur and a professional.
Yeah.
They both do the same tricks.
Yeah.
But when the amateur does it, it's a trick. When the professional does it, it's a minor miracle. Look, here are the 4 jacks.
Yeah.
If I do this like you said, 1 here, it's got to be precise.
Yeah. I opened up a Pandora's box.
All I do is I call that whacking your pack.
Yeah, okay.
And I whack the pack, and there's 1, 2.
No, see, you just did it,
Yeah.
but not the way I did it.
No, I did it.
That's great.
I'll do one more for you.
All right.
I can't believe you did that.
Here's a red jack of diamonds.
Yeah.
If you could get close to me, but I guess we can't get close. Is it better? Oh, you'll just have to trust me. Look, the jack of diamonds, no fast moves. And over here, the jack of hearts.
Yeah.
The jack of hearts goes here.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make them change places. Look.
Okay.
A little dance with my fingers, just like that.
Yeah.
If I do that, now what should I have here?
The Jack of Hearts.
Right.
Yeah, see, I didn't make myself clear. I meant change places with mine. See, that's the jack. Oh, I have the jack of hearts.
How the hell?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap up. Deane.
Before I do that, Derry, think of a card you see as I go by. Get a
Okay.
picture one. You have to see one.
Yeah.
You got one that quickly? I would say your card was either a red card or black card. Was it the ace of spades?
No.
What was it?
8 of diamonds.
What?
8 of...
Yeah. Thank you.
Deane, you close with a most amazing... He flipped, ladies and gentlemen, he flips the cards. I see the 8 of diamonds.
Yeah.
And could have thought of any one of them.
Out of 52 cards, Deane, I can't thank you enough for being on our show. We've had some very famous guests. We've been name drop all over the place. And I don't think we've ever had a match to Gianni Russo until tonight. And F. Lee Bailey.
I look forward to meeting Gianni.
Yeah, between F. Lee Bailey and Gianni Russo and you and B.B. Buell, Rob and I've learned about every celebrity that's ever lived.
Pretty much.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And by the way, when you, ladies and gentlemen, this man heard me speak in a restaurant. I was talking to a friend. He comes over and says, Derry, are you Derry Rundlett? I recognized your voice from 50 years before. Right. You're one of the most wonderful men. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next month. And thanks for watching the Rundlett and Baldacci Report.
Thank you. Thank you, Deane.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Yeah.